Hey, welcome back to school. I'm Mr. Kiefer. I'm going to be your U.S. history teacher this year in 8th grade. So just a little bit about what you can expect from our course. Uh, this course of U.S. history will be taught obviously from a Christian perspective. I think that means with a biblical worldview. And when you think about that, biblical worldview means we're going to try to look and see these people and events in our past the same way God sees it. Now, that's not always possible, but when it is, that's what we're going to try to do. Some of the things I'm going to emphasize throughout our course is the uniqueness of our country. There's no other country in the history of the world quite like the United States. The freedoms that we enjoy, the fact that our culture is a melting pot of cultures from all over the world and makes something very distinctive and unique, and that is the American culture. How we are the world's superpower, militarily and economically. I want to emphasize also God's hand in our history. Countless examples of His blessing from our founding all the way throughout our history, and His hand in our heritage and our beginning as a country, one nation under God. I am going to emphasize frequently the concept of American exceptionalism. We are the greatest nation on earth, and we are not perfect. Obviously, we're a country made up of men. Our system of government was devised by flawed men, just like any other country, but we have done an enormous amount of good throughout the world and created an enormous amount of wealth for more people than any other system of government ever. So we're going to emphasize that. Now, with that in mind, the way I like to explain it to our students, and they'll hear this phrase a lot, is we're going to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly of American history. In other words, we're going to learn the truth of what happened. To teach history any other way, you're really not learning history. You're learning what somebody wish happened. We're going to emphasize the good because that's what defines America. But there's some bad parts of our history too, and we're not going to ignore that. But we're not going to emphasize that. We're going to learn about it so we don't repeat those mistakes in history. And there's some parts of our history that are just downright ugly, and we don't want to ignore that also either. So we're going to learn everything there is about history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Something that's important to me is I'm going to be trying to encourage a love for America and our founding, our heritage. I once heard it explained this way: people won't fight or stand up for what they don't love. I used to say that figuratively. Nowadays we're seeing that literally. People won't stand up for what they don't love. And one can't love what they don't know. So that's the importance of learning history, so that we can stand up for and fight for the things that we know about our country. I'm also going to challenge our students to be good citizens. The way I always put it is to be a great American. We're going to spend a long time on the Constitution, several weeks learning the Constitution. I think 8th graders are old enough to understand the importance and the awesome message of the Constitution, and how it is really nothing but a limitation on our government. It's not telling us what to do. The Constitution's telling our government what they can't do. And it emphasizes our individual liberties. Obviously, we'll have a lot of opportunities to talk about how we are not always following the Constitution nowadays. And there are people who are always enemies of freedom, whether they are people from threats on our freedom from outside our country, or all too often we're seeing even threats on our freedoms and way of life from inside our country. So we'll have opportunities to discuss some of those as the curriculum goes through and issues arise. No special supplies you need for history class. Just come prepared every day. You'll need your textbook and your activity book every day. Textbook looks like this. All right, the activity book looks pretty much the same, except of course it's consumable. We tear those pages out. It's okay if you have a used textbook, but it's not going to work if you have a used activity book. If you have one from a student from previous years, the only pages you have left are the ones we're not going to use. So that won't do you much good. So make sure your activity book at least is brand new, and bring them both every day to class. And we'll talk more about the logistics and the details of how we'll run our classroom when you get here. So I am looking forward to getting back in the classroom and having some faces looking back at me. That's kind of what makes me tick and what makes me excited about going to work every day. So I can't wait to see you guys. I'm not so good at these videos. So let's learn some history. See you in a few days.